And we're back. So, Elizabeth, you have an appointment for dinner. Yep. So you're given the address to Maha's home. Maha lives so she lives in more of the urban area of the urban part of town. So she doesn't really have her own house per se. She lives in what would be kind of our equivalent to a condo. Let me check this music real quick. It's really loud, but I think that's about what I'm after here. It is in one of the nicer parts of town. She lives on the 4th floor. And as you arrive, there is basically what we would consider the modern day equivalent of a intercom system. You can step up. You will see her last name on the door. It's a little loud still. Sorry. Is that okay music-wise?
Okay for me.
Good. You will see her last name on the door, or on next to a small like little arcane mark that you can push. And if you press your finger against it, you will hear for a moment a slight ding, and after a moment, there will be some sound that comes up. Who is it?
Elizabeth?
One moment.
Okay.
Elizabeth, is that you?
Yes.
Oh, good. You should be able to open the door now.
I tried.
You can pull the door open. As you head inside, you can head up to the 4th floor. It is basically one room, one room to each floor as you go up this building, and as you ascend to the 4th floor, the door opens, and Maha is standing in front of the door in a way you've never seen Maha before. Maha is wearing like the most loose-fitting clothing that you've ever seen. Normally, Maha is very careful to wear things that fit her in a kind of like even, very kind of squared off kind of way. Maha is like a model for having like more of a boxy kind of outward clothing appearance, something that doesn't really let on a lot about her physicality, aside from the fact that you can tell a bit underneath that there must be a bit more tone to her physique. But wearing this, like, there's no way. It looks like she's probably going to bed shortly after she has some conversation with you. And she invites you in.
I'll look a little confused and follow her in and be like,
Yeah, sorry. This has all been a lot for me these last few days. I've been, well, there's a lot of stress on me to I feel like they sometimes want to prove that I am not going to be responsible, and I almost feel like this is them trying to find a way to get rid of me. I won't have it, of course, but they'll try.
well, give them hell.
I intend to.
Good.
But it's nice. I took it upon myself to relax, and I just came in and I didn't want to wear clothes in the normal sense.
It's fine. Wear whatever you're comfortable in. I don't care.
She invites you in. She has a few, like, what you would know to be luxuries that you have in your own home, so to you it probably wouldn't feel entirely unfamiliar. She has what looks to be a very comfortable and probably pricey couch that is in front of a very well put together viewing globe display. So in here, viewing globes are very similar to like our concept of a TV. A lot of viewing globes tend to be something that is kind of everybody gathers around a very small thing and everybody can kind of peer in and watch what's happening. In this case, there is a sort of projection system in Maha's viewing globe that will, like, a bit of light beams into it and refracts out onto a wall for presentation. And on it she has, like, what looks to be some people probably talking about news. You're familiar with viewing globes. I don't know personally how your character might feel about, like, the concept of television. There typically tends to be, like, the traditional, like, TV rots your brain. TV is, like, not particularly used for, or people that really enjoy TV and follow things specifically. But it is referred to as the viewing globe here, or what's on the globe. But there's no sound coming from anything. It's just the picture projected on the screen, or at least no sound related to what is on the screen. Instead, there is some, like, faint I've been trying to figure out. Pardon me for ruining immersion for a moment, but I've been trying to figure out a term for a style of music that I've been wanting to sort of have introduced, and this is kind of the world where it began. It is the idea of taking, how you can get people with sound mixing boards, and you can record a sound and you can play it and you can add other sounds. And here there is something along those lines that exists, but you are using, like, magic in combination with ghost sound, and then these things are actually redistributed. It's a very high-end thing to have access to it being in your personal home, but it does create a lot of nice, faint, soft, and kind of soothing sounds in the background, and you can kind of set it in a number of different ways to sort of play rhythmically the sounds that you want in the background. And it's one of the things you would notice as you come in. This is something that that your father has personally, and he kind of holds himself in very high regard for, like, this room that he has, that he's kind of, like, isolated for himself, and he goes to from time to time when he doesn't want to deal with, either any issues he might be having with work or your mother or whatever else might be bothering him at the time. Off to another end, there is a very like, mediocre table. It looks like it's probably seen better days. There's a lot of, like, chips and scratches, and some discoloration in it. What looks like somebody probably set something down that was too hot in one spot, and then left it there for far too long. Probably something straight out of the oven, right down onto a table, and then nobody thought about what the consequences would be. in doing so. You can see the little like kitchen area that exists here is very small, considering when you look at what exists in the living space, what you look at like in the overall kitchen space or in the overall dining space, the kitchen is very, very small. But you can see Kate in there, and Kate is dressed in a very long. Hold on. What color would Kate be wearing today? Should have rolled this up earlier. Orange colored dress. And she is like at work, mixing various things together, moving things in and out of the oven onto the stove. She is sort of like working all sorts of crazy to try to maybe finish or start. It's hard to tell with as quickly as she's working and all of what she's doing, as to what it is she is preparing or what stage of preparation she's in. And Kate will kind of like give you a wave and hi, and then get right back at it. Where would you like to sit?
Wherever you feel comfortable is fine.
I always prefer the couch.
Sounds good.
Maha takes a seat, and Sumi follow behind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to make it completely clear. I don't want to talk about work. I want to be done with work as much as I can be. And I think that you need to learn to do the same.
That'll be a hard lesson, but for your sake, I can give it a try.
What do you do in your free time?
Sleep?
Surely you must do something more than that.
I mean, I've had a few dinner and like lunch dates with Brianna.
How do you feel on those outings?
I mean, she's nice. It's good conversation, I guess. I sometimes feel like I wish there was more to do. I don't know. I'm not good with just hanging out and chatting. It's not exactly my forte.
I sort of sense that. What I think might be more to your leisure is something a little different. Forgive me, I know how do I put this? I didn't really ask proper questions ahead of time, but are you familiar with some of what they've been working on in terms of sensory experiencing in the arcane field?
Would I have any idea?
This will kind of depend on you. It's a higher end technology, and your family like might have interacted with some of it. This is essentially kind of a VR style thing, like a very low end VR. The idea of that you can use kind of like enchantment magic, as well as like some other like illusory magics to kind of create sensory experiences within the mind that you might not naturally have access to. And this is done by, you kind of take they have like a headband, but you wrap it like like you're wrapping it over your eyes, and you tie it behind you. And once you kind of like tie it into place, your brain kind of becomes immersed in the sensations that the headband is kind of putting your mind into. And she happens to have something a little different that she will show to you. She has a headband that has a like bit of string that kind of connects over to another headband. And these are bound together and are kind of a multiplayer VR experience.
All right.
And she like kind of pulls this thing out from a drawer from a side table that she has. I didn't know if this would be something that would interest you, but I picked this up recently, and it's not really sort of Kate's thing, but I thought maybe you might want to, I don't know, give it a try. There's a number of different things that we could do in this. It's been a long time since I've had an opportunity to wield a sword against someone, but perhaps you might want to give it a spin. I hear there's a rather interesting game inside of here.
Sure, I'll try it with you.
Okay. She'll hand you one of the headbands, and then she'll tie off her own. And as you tie it off, the way this kind of works is everything kind of blacks out for a moment. Your mind kind of stops thinking about anything else. And for a brief moment, this might be one of the most peaceful moments that Elizabeth, or scary moments that Elizabeth has ever had. Like a genuine sensation of, there is nothing on my mind right now.
I think it would be like a combination of both, like, where you're like peaceful, but at the same time, like, what's gonna come next? So I think like I'd be feeling like a mixture of like both, like whoa, this is super peaceful, but also like afraid of like,
As that sensation starts to fade a little bit and some thoughts come back, you notice like the landscape around you starts to kind of manifest. And you're in kind of it's a bit blurry, like some of the background objects are a bit blurry. But what would be Elizabeth's favorite kind of environment?
Gosh, I'm not sure what would be her favorite kind of environment.
The city, the plains, the fields, the forests, the mountains.
For some reason, forest is jumping out to me. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm gonna go with it for now.
Okay. You see a bit of a landscape unfold before you. There are a dense number of trees throughout the landscape, but also kind of blurred in behind those trees is a mountainscape that kind of wraps around where the two of you stand in this little kind of clearing. And Maha is no longer dressed in the same clothes that she was dressed in. She is dressed in shimmering silver plate mail that stretches from head to toe. But something about it seems very... something about it seems not to hamper her agility as she kind of stands there. In her right hand, she wields a scimitar, and she brings it into her left hand, and she kind of lowers it to the ground and looks at you. If Elizabeth could be dressed in any sort of combat attire, what would it be?
I mean, I feel like what she uses is like probably close to her ideal. Like I feel like she wants to go for that like knight style, like full plate sword. Like I feel like what she has is like her, like, because I feel like she's the type of person where she like at a young age set her mind like, I'm gonna be a knight, and like always that's like what she aspired to be and has like been working towards that. So like this is her like ideal.
Okay. So as you kind of like look at her and then look at yourself, you have like the shield upon your arm, large and pronounced. Your sword tightly held in your hand with its dark obsidian blade coming up from it, and your brightly cleaned knight armor shining upon your body. Now, I believe this should work out. We both have a amount of ability to endure hits that shouldn't harm you at all physically, but you might feel the impact. If you get scared, remember you can always reach up, and even if you don't in the game feel anything there, you are untying to get out. After a certain number of hits, things will go dark for you. It will go dark for about 5 seconds, and then everything will sort of reset and will be at equal proximity again. But otherwise, you're familiar with sparring, right?
Very familiar.
All right. And the two of you can spend as long as you'd be interested in sparring back and forth with each other.
I feel like once Elizabeth like gets into it, like she's gonna have a ton of fun, and we'll be like, "Let's go again! Let's go again! Let's go again!" Like she's all for it.
Maha is seemingly, as you guys get invested in this, Maha is seemingly more excited than she initially kind of was letting on. There is a lot of her style is very flowing. As she engages with you, she's much harder to hit, just naturally. And she has some very fluid motions that come at you. But you notice that, like, when hits are being registered, your hits seem to hit more forcefully and cause her to go down more than her hits do, which ultimately has you both somewhat like evenly matched in your fighting. And so you guys can easily trade wins back and forth until at some point you can both feel a hand on your shoulder. And for a moment, like, there's like the echoing of the words, "Dinner's ready."
We'll give Maha a sad face. Do we have to stop?
I suppose so. I am rather hungry.
I think she was working pretty hard at that food. It looked like she was doing some crazy stuff in the kitchen. We better go.
Oh, you're gonna love it. It's one of the things I fell in love with.
I can't wait.
Over the evening, the two of you can talk about things. If there's anything particular you'd like to talk about, she's willing to talk. Otherwise, she won't really prod you on anything. She and Kate will kind of go back and forth about their day. She'll ask you how your day was, but not prod too heavily, knowing that, like you said earlier, this, having this whole social thing isn't really your cup of tea. And as the evening winds up, she'll thank you very much for coming over. It's been pleasant to have you here. And
I surprisingly really enjoyed our time.
If you're free, maybe in the future, let me know. I'd be happy to have you back.
Yeah, I think I'm leaving here in a couple days for our next assignment, but I'll let you know when I'm back, and maybe we can set something else up.
Wonderful. I am free most of the evenings next week, aside from the 14th.
We have a date.
How does your Andurum look?
We know the day.
Well, you know that an upcoming day is the 14th.
Yeah, like we're within
Ask her how
a
long
week.
that is from now.
Would I know, like, based on what day it is, do we have, like, an idea of when we're leaving?
Yeah. So you know you're leaving in a couple of days. The 14th is the following week. So you are. This kind of has bothered you for a while that you've not really had access to a calendar. You've maybe it's just kind of Elizabeth doesn't really care. Elizabeth is just kind of like on the regular day thing, but there's not like a calendar in your room. You know there's one in the house, but you never really bother to look at it. But you assume it's probably closer to the end of the week, like probably around the 8th, 9th, or 10th of this month.
Okay. I mean, I think I'm pretty free next week. Once we're leaving in a few days to do this mission, but I really don't suspect the mission should take over a day or two at max. I don't even imagine that long, but I think unless I'm given another, follow-up assignment right after that forces me to work within the evenings, I believe I should be free around then.
All right, feel free to find me in the office when you get back, and we'll work things out.
Yeah, I will 100% do that.
Thank you. All right. And so the next day, all of you can pick up your items, prep your spells, and prepare to head out.
Is it possible to, I don't know if we were given any written material on this mission, but can we just talk to our main dude again before we leave?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One sec. I remember where these notes are. They are in the other program, because I am working on...
So if I'm remembering right, we're in the month of Andurum in Conscript.
Maybe you are.
I think I have it written in the notes on my character sheet. I'll have to go check at some point.
That's what I was doing. I need Authenticator. You're interrupting me finding the proper music here, John. For a good purpose, at least, but still. And I should have had it picked out beforehand. I've just been having a lot of issues feeling out music lately.
I'm gonna go sneak a peek at my thing now. Not
Where did I put this?
pretty sure I have a note at what month we're in. That doesn't necessarily.
Ninoslav.
Ninoslav?
Nino.
Slav.
Yes.
Fucking Russian.
Yeah, you can manage to find him after a little while of looking for him.
Ninoslav, how goes it?
As it usually does.
Which is?
Indeed. Now, what do you hear about?
I wanted to, I believe the rest of my party is getting ready to take off, and I wanted to clarify some details. It's been a few days since we spoke, so before we head out, I just want to make sure we have everything down pat, because I'm not going to name any names, but some people have a habit of not following instructions, following the rules,
Yes, we've read your profile.
Anyway. I wanted to clarify, if we do find Baru and he is not his faculties and he poses a danger to himself, we do have the right to restrain him forcibly, yes? And bring him back? If he poses a danger to himself as well as anyone else?
Preferably. We would like to have him back here alive.
Well, yes, we won't. I don't propose
However,
harming him, but I just want to make sure we're in our right to quote unquote maybe.
I must leave the judgment up to you as to whether or
Okay.
not you feel it is safe to bring him back here. There are
What does that mean?
complications that can be had. Well, you're not going to have a lot of time to work. So if you feel you are in too much danger, we obviously recommend that you flee and return here. And we will see what we can dispatch to deal with the issue. However, it is we are leaving it up to you as to whether or not you feel like you can solve the situation via what means you have.
All right.
One way or another, it would be good if he could be back here.
Worst case scenario, you did mention if he seems fine, we're not allowed to bring him back forcibly. Is there anything that we could help to get from him? Should this be the case? Maybe an article of clothing belonging to Scry and him in the future, or
We are not legally allowed to scry.
well, I mean, in the case maybe that happens, would it be good to have something like that?
No.
No.
There is
So-
no reason we would have to scry on him. We went over this in the debriefing. There's no legal cause for us to scry on a person who is left of his own accord.
Yes, you said there's no legal cause, but there is cause to do it. I'm just saying if it were to occur where it would become legal, it'd be good to have.
It is
something
not
written out.
ever going to become legal to scry on another person. You are aware of what a great disaster that created. Maybe you're not good on history, but thousands of years, hundreds of years ago, it had created great problems for a lot of people. Are you aware of the sexual deviance and their actions that happened? There were great numbers of people who were completely ruined by it. The days that they hacked the viewing globe and showed a variety of people in their homes.
Let's see if I can recall this event that you speak of.
Do you have ranks in knowledge history?
I'm trained in such, but I do not have ranks.
Okay.
Ha! Also, these are my spells.
Thank you. It sounds vaguely familiar. You know there was some inciting incident many years ago that is part of what made scrying illegal. It doesn't seem like this was really the incident that did it. But you've heard other people fabricate reasons for ultimately why scrying was made illegal. But it seems like nobody or maybe very few people really know the exact reason. But you're pretty sure this isn't really the reason that was why it happened, historically speaking.
All right. Last thing, do we have any free supplies to use? Some provisions and tents in case we get stuck out there overnight, or
Do not get stuck out there overnight.
but in case it happens, I like to be prepared.
Do not get stuck out there overnight.
As stubborn as a dwarf, they say.
No.
Okay.
It would be stubborn to stay out there overnight. Are you aware of the dangers that exist in the woods?
I'm very
Three of
aware.
you awake. One of you awake while the other three of you rest if you're even doing it proper. And the dangers that will come to get you. Even a man down. Or even if it was just a single person down during that time. You are putting yourselves at great risk, at substantial risk. I would never wish of you to be in that circumstances. If evening even comes close to setting in, you keep a close eye on when you came into the woods, on how far in you've gone and how many hours. And if you feel like you've been in there for too long, you start heading back. You do not want to be in the forests as the sun is setting. The darklings will get you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gulran will go prepare his spells and get ready for the night, but I have to be right back a minute. So
Okay. Well, let's take a short break then, while he steps away, and we'll be back in a moment.